等等，为什么有的人会在我的这个？
你说。
Okay, never mind.
好了，可以了。
可以，我已经 recording 了 ，everybody is on recording。
好不，你可以开始了。
好的，好的，好，各位啊，大家好啊，我是今天讲座的主持，犹他科协文教部的负责人之一张鹤波。那么在讲座之前呢，我想给大家一点点 surprise， 就有请我们徐青给大家看一段今天的讲座嘉宾 Christina 的一些珍贵的照片。我们先请徐青女士来 warm up 一下啊。
好，我可以 share 一下我的这个 screen， 大家可以看到我这个 screen 了吗？
可以，
可以哈。然后，因为刚才有人在我这个 PPT 上面画那个，请大家不要做那些不好的事情 ，OK？ 然后今天那个我非常非常荣幸有这个机会，能够代表我们犹他科协的这个 CRA 的项目，是一个社区帮扶的项目，来介绍今天的这个讲座嘉宾 Christina 齐。Christina 是我们 Utah 成长的非常出色的，也很成功的一个年轻的企业家。他呢在读大学的时候自己在那个宿舍里面创业，然后成功的做了一个这个对冲基金，所以他也是我们这个犹他科协的骄傲。他是我们犹他科协早期的高中生的优秀高中生奖的这个获奖者，所以我们今天非常荣幸的请到他。然后在开始介绍他之前呢，先推广一下我们科协的这个社区帮扶项目。从今年开始呢，我们科协准备组织一系列的活动，能够帮助小企业的这个发展，然后通过小企业的发展以后，可以创造更多的就业机会，可以帮助到更多需要帮助的人。那么 Christina 今天的这个讲座呢，他跟我们分享他在创业历程中的这些经验和教训，就是在我们科协推广文化和教育的同时，也开始我们的这个小企业帮扶的一个计划。所以这是我们科协的一个推广。然后今天的讲座呢，首先我们要感谢徐武老师，他是我们科协的核心成员，帮助联系这次讲座。徐武老师也是 Christina 的干妈，从3岁起就一直关注 Christina。然后也要感谢这个Christina 的母亲张辉女士，她也是帮助我们组织和联系，也提供了很多的 Christina 的这些素材。然后你待会儿看到的一些有一些这个截屏简报一些小片段呢，也是她母亲的收藏和分享。OK， 那现在我就到这个 slide show 有3个。
我突然想到了
这个话题特别容易。
OK， 然后就是正式的来介绍一下 Christina。Christina 呢，她是在她的 MIT 读大学的时候，在
徐青，你mute你自己了。
听到了吗？
可以听到，
听到了。
可以听到哈。就 Christina 呢，她的最简单的就是她非常做得很好的，就是在读大学的时候 ，MIT 麻省理工，她在自己的宿舍呢，和2个小伙伴一起创立了一个就是 Hedge Fund 对冲基金，做得非常的成功。这个基金的名字叫 Dome Yard。然后他呢做的那个交易量很大，后来就是得到了整个金融，就是美国主流这个金融这个主体的这个认可，获得了很高的这个成就。他举个例子，他曾经是福布斯30岁以下30位名人，他上榜这个福布斯的这个封面，大家看这个左边这只是其中的一个，他也获得了，比如说很多40岁以下40位名人物也是杰出的，在这个对冲基金界杰出的女性也有获奖这个优秀的这个 女性科技人物奖，很多她现在也是麻省理工的这个董事会的这个成员，然后她现在又创立了一个自己的公司，就是叫 Data Bento， 然后她是任 CEO， 所以就是也是积极的参与一些非盈利的这个机构。那么这是一个大概的，就是 Christina 她做到的事情和得到的认可。那么其实我们今天请她来呢，就是实际上大家看到她的成功，就是为她感到骄傲，她是我们犹他的骄傲，也是我们科协的骄傲。但实际上呢，对我们来说呢 ，Christina 呢，实际上她就是我们华二代，也是就是邻居家的一个好孩子，也是我们自己的孩子。那么这个图呢，就是他母亲分享的一些收集的一些孩子的资料，像这个上面这个是他也是就读的是这个 Hillcrest 这个 High School， 是我们就是盐湖城南边的，基本上很多中国人都把自己的孩子送到这所公立学校里边去读他的 IB program。那么他呢，就是在读这个书的时候，就是获得了我们科协的优秀高中生奖。推广一下，我们科协每年这个为科协的这个成员的孩子们设置的这个高中生奖，欢迎大家申请，也欢迎大家加入科协。有很多像 Christina 这样优秀的孩子，我们鼓励他们认真学习，关注社会，也希望帮助他们能够帮助他们到他们这个大学的过程。那么这是一个，那么左边这个就是 Christina 她妈妈也是分享，就是她实际上就是讲起来说，哎，早上她可能就在 Utah 滑雪，下午她去这个攀岩什么，晚上她就消失到 Boston， 然后飞去这个哈佛呀MIT 呀，就去讲课。她的这个成功的这个创业的案例被编入了这个商学院的这个成功案例，是他去给哈佛商学院、给 MIT 商学院去讲他这个分享他这个经历和过程，所以就是一个很精力旺盛的一个我们 Utah 出去的孩子。然后这个左下方的这个简报呢，也是就是当年他获得福布斯30岁以下30位名人榜的时候，在我们Salt Lake 这个 Deseret 这个 News 上面登出来，你看他的这个头像比左边这个 President Trump 的这个头像还要大，所以说我们说非常的为他这个骄傲。还有一些小的片段也是他母亲分享的，就是比如说他读 MIT 的时候，到了那个2年级要选专业的时候，然后他的这个妈妈就去帮他选，说，哎，有一个什么很好的专业，什么石油什么的，然后对女孩子也不多，然后以后也可以发展，就去跟女儿说，然后女儿呢就说也不同意也不反对，就跟妈妈就说，哎，实际上这些父母也不知道孩子喜不喜欢这个专业，就去为他们选这个专业，这是件很令人就是难过的事情。然后妈妈也就是很明智，觉得哦，那这个我就 step back， 对吧？就是尊重女儿的选择。结果后来女儿自己选了商科，然后得到的是MIT 的管理学位。那么她后来就是3、4年级就获得学的课程非常的喜欢，而且如鱼得水，老师也非常喜欢他。在他后来创业的过程中间呢，他也是得到了这些老师的一些帮助，所以他妈妈就说他是一个案例，但是对于我们就是孩子来说，父母要学会就是尊重和理解孩子的选择，因为 Christina 自己也说，只有你选到了一个自己很喜欢的事情，那么之后呢，你才会觉得你去工作是快乐的，你不觉得你是在打工这样子。所以就是通过 Christina 的这个例子呢，就是我们实际上对孩子，我们父母也可以学到帮助孩子成长和成功吧，给他们一些宽容啊，给他们一些支持，这样子希望我们能够培养出更多的像 Christina 这样子的好的这个成功的这个例子。这是第二个 Christina 方面，然后后来呢，就是这一章呢，就是如果大家关注他，可以去他的这个网页 christinachi.com 去看看，他有他的简历啊，他有得了的很多奖，而且他有很多他自己他的这些做的视频啊，跟大家分享他的经验和一些采访。然后因为这个 Hedge Fund 嘛，对冲基金呢，我觉得我去看了以后，有一个很感动的就是它是对冲基金，实际上它的本质就是 给一小部分有钱人，然后通过这个金融产品或者金融工具给他们赚更多的钱。那么 Christina 她做得很好的时候呢，她也一直在反思，就是我对这个社会的贡献在哪里，对吧？她就是不是说为了帮助有钱人赚更多的钱，她就会慢慢的，她觉得我成功了，我要为这个社会为需要的群体做一些事情，所以他现在他参加了很多的这些非盈利机构和社团，然后他也去为他们做一些他觉得有意义的事情。那么像今天他来就是跟我们分享他的这些成功的经验啊、教训啊什么，实际上也是他反馈社会的一个这个行为。所以那么到这里呢，我们就简单的就介绍到这里，需要我要说一下，就是 Christina， 我们也谢谢他今天不仅来给我们讲座，而且会捐赠一些这个叫 Uplift 这本书，记录了他和一些其他的这个亚裔的年轻的这些孩子们就是成功和创业的一些经历。那么这本书呢，我们的这个联系人会在 chat 已经在 chat 这个 field 里边给大家发了一个这个填表的这个 link， 就是想要这个书的人就填上你的姓名和这个地址，我们到时候 Christina 会和这个书的作者沟通，会寄给你这本书。如果有别的什么问题呢，我们也会 post 一个我们这个邮箱，大家可以去发邮箱和询问。然后这里呢，这个会期我们就讨论这个书的事情了。OK， 那么交还给你，浩波主持人。
好的。这边还有朋友们都在陆续的加入哈，我们来看一下，好的，OK， 那你这边朋友们都很热情啊，现在已经70多位了啊，快80位了啊，好，大家好，那我就继续主持啊，尊敬的讲座嘉宾 Christina 齐女士你好，还有尊敬的 Christina 的母亲张辉女士你好，谢谢你培养这么优秀的一个孩子啊。
大家好，谢谢阿姨 ，like the introduction is so amazing. So sorry, 我的中文水平真的太差了，所以我会用英文讲。但是如果有 questions, like feel free to ask in Chinese, it's okay. Yeah， 可以用中文，我听得懂中文，但是有时候就是说不出来。So
Christina, please give me just 1 minute. OK， 我还要介绍一下今天有其他的一些这个嘉宾，还有尊敬的犹他科协的领导周敏敏理事长，陈伟丽女士，盛晓明顾问，冯连会长马副会长，你们好，还有尊敬的科协会员们和关心和热心参与这次讲座的朋友们你们好。这次讲座呢得到了社会各界的支持在此表示衷心的感谢。希望我们今后的活动也一如既往的得到大家的支持。Christina 是在我们犹他长大的孩子，经过自身的不懈努力，成了一颗耀眼的新星。待会儿呢 ，Christina 1个小时讲座后有20分钟时间的问答，也欢迎大家呢来踊跃的提问。你准备好的问题也可以提前在我们这个聊天里面，你可以用文字写上去，我们收集以后到时候集中发给 Christina。那现在呢，我们就有请 Christina 分享她从0到70亿元的创业经验与教训。有请 ，please。
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, 谢谢大家. It's like such an honor to be here and to talk to everyone. I know many of you from the community. Many of you I call 阿姨 or 叔叔 because we grew up together. So thank you very, very much for all of your support and your help. So yeah, I guess I'll just start. I hope I can speak in English. I hope that's okay. And if you have any questions, you can ask in Chinese or English, and I can understand, I hope. So yeah, I guess I'll talk about actually, you know, like when we started from the very beginning, right, growing up in Utah, I think it's a very interesting experience. So I'll talk about more about like childhood a little bit, and then talk about what led me, why did I start a company, you know, why did I decide to do this crazy thing, and how did my parents feel and everything. So we can talk more about that too. But I wanted to start with, you know, growing up in Utah as a child, the first time I realized I'm Chinese was actually in preschool because my parents would, you know, sometimes they would, for lunch, they would cook me Chinese food, you know, and bring it, I would bring the Chinese food like shrimp or like baozi, that kind of stuff I would bring, you know, to school. And the kids would be like, ew, that's so gross, you know, it smells bad, like Chinese food is disgusting. And so I feel really bad. And I remember I would throw away the food when I was 4 years old. So I would throw away the food. I would come home and I told my mom, I want French fries and chicken nuggets. And of course, my mom, you know, she didn't know what that was. And she's like, wow, like my kid is already becoming, you know, American, right? And that was when I first realized I'm Chinese. And then I guess the funny story is when I, you know, entered high school and then college, especially in college, you know, the same kids who make fun of my food, they're like, you, Chinese food is gross. You know, now they post on their Instagram, on their social media, you know, Facebook, they post pictures of their Chinese food that they have. And they're like, this is so good. And they love Chinese food. And I just find that so funny because, you know, in high school, I would be eating my French fries, my chicken nuggets, and then my friend next to me is eating Chinese food. So I think it changes a lot over time. But that's when I first realized, wow, like I'm Chinese, you know? And I learned over time to love, you know, the culture, the food, and everything, of course. So, but anyway, so I guess my story is, you know, I grew up with all of you in this community together. You know, I go shopping at like Dazhong and the Chinatown supermarket, right? Like we're all the same kind of people. I see many of you at parties, you know, 打麻将, right? Like 扑克牌, we all play together at the you know, Chinese parties growing up. And it was a huge part of my identity, you know, like even this week it was like 包饺子 with my friends. So it was like a really nice kind of community. But I think then, you know, the first question people ask, I think is because we're this community, first question people always ask me is, how did you get into MIT? And I think it's a good question. And so it's hard to answer. I think half of my answer, I think 50% is just luck. Just pure luck. Like every year, you know, it's luck, unfortunately, in the college admissions process. So, you know, maybe one year they need more people from Utah. One year they need someone who plays violin or plays the piano or on the soccer team, right? So every year it's just almost like lucky. Half of the admissions process is just luck. And then for me, the reason why I applied to MIT because it was like, one is, you know, it's a good school, but also I feel like it would be a culture that I would, you know, like really appreciate. Hopefully I can learn a lot at the school and stuff. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just, you know, having good essays, having a good story to tell, and being kind of different and unique and being genuine and honest, you know, in your application process. So that's just one thing I always mention is it's hard to answer that question, but I would say most of it's luck. And then the rest of it is just skills, you know, learned over time and having some unique story and identity. And definitely being Chinese, you know, coming from Utah is very unique, you know, and it's definitely something to be proud of, something you can write about. It's something I wrote about. And a lot of my friends write similar stories of, you know, growing up in a place like Utah, which is so strange to people. So anyway, when I entered college, I immediately, you know, in high school, I was one of the top students, I feel like, at Hillcrest. But when I went to MIT, my first exam at MIT was a physics test, and I got a 21.5%, with a very low score on the test, one of the lowest in the class at the time. And I remember feeling so like embarrassed and ashamed because here I am, you know, Hillcrest is an easy high school, right? Like a public school, anyone can enter. And I was one of the top at Hillcrest. I go to MIT, and on day one, I'm one of the bottom students at the school. My test scores are very low. I started worrying, like, can I graduate? You know, am I going to be okay? And And then I don't know anyone here, if anyone's in college or, during like studying or, looking for jobs and stuff. But for me, in college, there's two types of students, actually. There's the type of student that, they know what they want to do, right? Like I have a friend who's like, since I was 5, my friend said, oh, since she was 5 years old, she wanted to become a doctor since she was 5, but, and another friend who's like, since she was like 4 or 5, she wanted to work in, like in healthcare or in aeroastro and like the space industry. But for me, in college, I still had no idea, actually. Like maybe many of your kids can relate. Maybe your kids are similar situation. If you ask what do you want to do? Some kids are like, I don't know, right? Like I have no idea. So for me, that was me. My answer, every time people ask me, I would say something different. Oh, I want to be biologist. I want to be researcher. Next time I want to be a computer scientist, So I took many classes at MIT, and I always did really bad. Actually, most of the classes I did pretty bad. So in biology in high school, I did IB, AP biology, and I got the top score. I got a 5, I got a 7, I got very high scores on like all of the exams. But then I went to MIT, I took intro to biology. So this is like basic biology 101 at MIT, and I got a C. I got a C, like a very low grade in this class. And I was about to major in biology because that's what sometimes a lot of kids like, oh, I want to major in biology because I'm good at it, because I got an A in high school. So, that was a really bad reason. But so I remember I went to the professor and I said, I want to major in biology. And the professor's like, you probably shouldn't, if you get a C in introduction to biology, you probably shouldn't major in biology, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So then at the end of the school year, we had to declare a major. And so I remember I'm so confused. I don't know what to major in, but we had to say something. So my friend said, oh, why don't you declare, like, there's a very easy major at MIT. It's called management science, which is like 管理. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what 管理is, or I don't know what management is. But I decided like, okay, I put that as my major because it's the easiest major at MIT, and maybe I will survive, maybe I will graduate. So I declared that major, and that was the best decision I've ever made. One of the luckiest decisions, because like if you think about careers and jobs in the industry, 管理 is like actually very close to finance, by the way. So MIT, that major we took, you have to take finance and marketing and operations and accounting classes. So it was a very practical major, and there are so many jobs that have, that are hiring for a skill set that you have. So for example, every company needs a finance person. Even if you work at a nonprofit, you have to have a finance person to help you, with the treasuries, with running, the accounts, and with the accounting work, and with fundraising, right? So finance is a very important skill set to have. And thankfully I didn't know. So I fell into the major by accident because the other majors were too difficult for me. So that's the real story, was that everything was too difficult. So I just declared, management as major, and then got very lucky because the classes were easy, but also there's so many jobs in the industry that involve finance. And so it was great. I really enjoyed it. Every summer, my first summer, I interned at Zions Bank, came back to Utah. Second summer, came back to Utah again and interned at Goldman Sachs. And it's like every summer I can intern at a different bank, a different company. And there's so many great jobs out there for this major. So I got very lucky. But then the second question people ask is, why did you start your company, right? Why did you start a hedge fund? And, like, why? And so the real, sometimes when I do interviews on TV or like, I don't know, other company channels and stuff, usually I just say, oh, I really like finance, but actually that's not true. So the real reason I started a company is out of a string of failures in my life, actually. So my third summer internship I had, my junior summer, which is like almost my last year at MIT. So it was my last summer to do internships. And I had a very difficult internship experience at a bank, a very large bank. During there was like a trading internship, so we do sales and trading, and for the final project we had to come up with a presentation, like a stock pitch. So you had to pitch some kind of stock to the team, to the company, but the problem was like, so I spent the whole summer preparing for presentation, and I decided, because my background is more technical, I come from I'll go to tech school. So I want to come up with a more technical strategy. So traditionally, for stocks, when you look at which stocks to trade, you look at the, fundamentals, right? You read the news about the company, or you maybe look at how much money they're making, how much revenue, profits. But for me, I decided to do something more quantitative. So quantitative analysis is like, I look at the history of the stock, or maybe two stocks, so Google and Facebook, and I look at their graph like over time, the data, and I can analyze patterns in the data. So if Google goes up and Facebook goes down, maybe they'll come back together one day, right? So that's called a mean reversion strategy. So I looked at different strategies and came up with a quantitative strategy to pitch during my final presentation for the internship. And so I pitched it. I thought it was really good. I really liked my strategy, but my team, my boss, they hated it. They really didn't like it. I remember someone laughed at me and they said, "This is ridiculous, like it's not going to work, and the team I worked on is a non-quantitative team. So of course they don't understand. So maybe I made a big mistake. I should have, presented a regular fundamental strategy, but instead I presented a quantitative strategy. So yeah, they laughed in my face. I remember crying, I actually cried. And then that day I remember I went home crying, or actually my friends told me, "Oh, you cried." And I was like, "I forgot. I totally forgot," because it was such a long time ago, very bad memory. So of course they did not give me an offer. So that day, after the presentations, they call you into a room and they give you either a full-time job offer, or they, basically they say, "Sorry, we're not going to give you an offer." Bye. So that was my last day. So they did not give me an offer. I tried so hard. The purpose of internship is like you want to get an offer. And so I didn't get the offer. I came home, or came back to my school actually, for my last year of college. And I felt very depressed because I was like, I worked for 3 different banks and I tried so hard, and this summer I finally got my perfect internship I really wanted in sales and trading, and they didn't give me an offer. They don't want me. And so my friend said, "Well, why don't you trade the strategy? The strategy you did during the whole summer that you did research on, you should just start trading. And like, if you fail, if it doesn't work and it loses money, then at least they were right. And that's a good thing. Or if it does work, then that's good, right? Then you get, either way, you get closure. You get some sense of like, this is okay. I got some closure on the problem." Because I always felt like something, I felt kind of depressed and I don't know, after just demotivated after that internship. And so I came back to my dorm room and then started trading the strategy. And back then, so this is like 10 years ago, I got an account on what's called Interactive Brokers, actually. It's like a brokerage platform. And today there's so many different platforms you can trade on. You can do Robinhood, you can do, E-Trade, Ameritrade, there's many different platforms. But back then, I think Interactive Brokers was one of the larger kind of platforms. And so I got an account there, started a little, trading the strategy a little bit. And I remember the first time, of course, it didn't work. But after a little bit of tweaking and editing and refining the strategy, it worked. After a while, it started working. And by the end of the year, by the end of the school year, when I was graduating, we made $40,000. And I started with 1,000. So because I made $1,000 from, saved up 1,000 from the internship and used that money to just trade. And then by the end of the year, we made 40,000. I was very surprised because, okay, first off, I was in debt. I was, I had student loans I had to pay off. And suddenly I can pay off my student debt. I can pay off my loans because I suddenly had the money to, just from trading my strategy. And so that was when I realized, oh, like, I don't need to work at a large company in order to, feel happy, in order to be financially okay, be stable, hopefully. And so that was why I started it, was at first I felt like I had no choice, but I didn't get an offer from the company. So I had nowhere to go and just started, my work. I spent so many months working on that project. And so started just trading my project. And then it started working. And so we decided, let's just make this into a larger company. And so that's what we did, was just started this company. Of course, at the time, especially like, Chinese founders, right, is so rare. Back then, there's not a lot of founders who, can start a company like this. And for me, it was definitely very difficult at the very beginning because we didn't have enough, even though we made some money. 40,000 in a company is not a lot of money, actually, because we need to hire people. We need an office space. We needed so many, like computers, and we needed to buy data. We needed to hire auditors, accountants, tax people. So the cost really adds up. And, it's very common, like for a company, if we have, I remember like 20 people in the company, right? Every month we spend maybe $200,000 or $300,000. So actually 40,000 is not a lot of money. And so for me at the very beginning, it was very difficult. I remember my mom, had to, like, I don't know, my mom probably doesn't feel comfortable saying this, but like she made a lot of sacrifices for me in order for me to run my company. And that involves, one is blindly supporting me. I think that's number one most important thing, but also not just my mom, by the way, it's all of you. It's, my grandma, it's everyone here, right? Because blindly supporting me, even though my company can fail. 90% of startups fail at the end of the day. And so it's that going into like unknown, going into taking a big risk. And it's also embarrassing, right? Because sometimes back, especially, for Chinese culture, like failure is like seen as embarrassing. And so if my mom and everyone's, it's like, we're all putting our reputation on the line for this. And I realized I don't have enough money. And I need to fundraise. I need to go out there, find investors, find venture capitalists and hedge fund investors and everyone else, and try to raise money for the company. And so so just remember, my parents were so worried, like, why would you do this? But they also supported me because, just letting me do this. And so I was really grateful for that. So anyway, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about fundraising, like so for startups, right? The number one thing a startup needs is, unfortunately, it's money, unfortunately, because look, if I wish, like, look, if we were all kids of billionaires, if we were all born into very rich families, then of course, right, it's easy to start a company because you have the money, you can hire employees, you can pay people a salary, like it's a lot easier, but we didn't have any money. So how did I fundraise and what did I do to raise that money? The number one thing I did was I signed up for every single pitch startup competition in town. So every time there's a startup event, any company hosting startup event, I always sign up and I attend. So sometimes I can go on stage, they invite me to pitch, like a 1-minute pitch. And then sometimes it's just I'm in the audience and I listen to other startups pitch. But just showing up and saying hi and networking and meeting people is, for me, very important to fundraise and meet the right people. Sometimes what happens is I'm in the audience and I say hi to someone and they're like, oh, wow, you're doing a hedge fund. Like, I don't know about hedge funds, but my friend does. And then they introduce me to a friend who, maybe works in the hedge fund industry, and the friend can help me a lot. And so that's how you grow a network is, when I was 20 years old, I had zero network. I come from Utah, right? I don't have the Wall Street, New York network, but then over time, like, everyone starts from zero and we all grow that network over time. And so that's how I raised the money. So I'll tell you maybe one funny story of the first check we ever got, the first time I ever raised money was an event hosted by Microsoft, actually. So what happened was Microsoft was hosting a startup competition. And so they invited 30 startups to sign up. And so I quickly signed up for the event. And I showed up that night, and every startup has a 1-minute, that's it, just 1 minute, 60 seconds to pitch your company. So I spend all day just preparing, PowerPoint. We get to do like 5 PowerPoint slides and, memorizing my pitch. And then that day is an evening time and we show up at the event and it's my turn to go. And so just a funny story was the people before me, they were like a chocolate milk company. There was a startup that was doing knitting and crochet, and they crochet like mermaid tails for humans was the topic that the startup that they did. Other companies, there's a company that does like better toilets or better, different kinds of fun products. And then it's my turn. I go up on stage and I say, hi, I'm Christina Shi. This is my company Dome Yard, and we do high frequency trading. And as soon as I said, and high frequency trading is 高频交易. So as soon as I said high frequency trading, of course, many people and many judges and people in the audience, they were like, like, ooh, this is bad. Like one judge was like, no, very unhappy.
Sorry, I can listen to you on my phone.
And that's because like in high frequency trading, it's a very controversial industry. And so and then someone in the audience, or a judge, raised his hand and said, so what you do is like front running, and like illegal stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not true. We don't manipulate the markets. We don't do front running. Like, we get our data from the public sources only, just public exchange, the stocks exchanges, and then we trade that data basically. And the only difference is we just create technologies so we can trade it a little bit faster, right? And then that was 1 minute. 1 minute was over. So I still had my cover slide with the logo of my company, and I didn't go through any slides, and that was it. My time was up. I just spent 1 minute defending myself. And so of course I knew I lost. I knew this is bad. And so I went down from stage, and I just felt like very sad because I applied to so many competitions all the time to pitch my startup, and I've never won. I always lose these competitions. And by the way, now I look back, I'm like, of course we lost. Like I'm pitching a money-making machine, right? Like nobody wants to invest in a, not that it's more like who would choose a company like that to win, right? It doesn't look good, right? You want to choose a chocolate milk company, or choose the mermaid company or the toilet company, right? Choose like a company that's fun or funny or exciting, right? Don't choose like a money. So now I understand, but back then, I still, because you put in so much effort, I put in so much time, and so much emotion into the event. Of course, whenever we lose, it always hurts. And so for that Microsoft event, there were 25 prizes and 30 startups. And the prizes, they're all really small prizes. So maybe a gift card to, like a In-N-Out, or a gift card to Cafe Rio, like a local shop like that. And sometimes it's like AWS credits. So, or Microsoft, now it's Microsoft Azure credits or something. And so the prizes were small here and there. The top prize was like $5,000 cash plus some other gifts and, gift cards and stuff. So they announced the 25 winners, and we didn't win. So we were one of the 5 losers. And so after that, there's a reception. So everyone is eating, they have like cookies and chips and stuff. And we're grabbing food, and then everyone's congratulating each other. And, I felt like leaving. It was late, I was tired, and I lost. And so I was gonna leave, but before I left, I did one thing correct, which is I went to the organizer and I told her, thank you so much for organizing this event. Thank you for, this opportunity. It really means a lot. And she says, wow, thank you for participating, kind of awkward, like, oh, thank you for trying, good job, participating. And then she said, oh, by the way, do you know this guy named Gary? Gary's also in the hedge fund industry. And I said, no, I don't know anyone in the hedge fund industry. And so she brings me to this old guy. He looks like, maybe 70, 80 years old and very tall. His name is Gary. I don't know him. And Gary starts talking to me. He's like, oh yeah, I saw, your pitch, and like, what are you working on? And so we start talking, and we talk, and the event's over. They're turning off the lights, everyone's already leaving. And he says, let's continue talking. I want to learn more. So we go downstairs to like one of those, a cafe downstairs, and we continue talking. And he says, and he keeps asking me lots of questions, and he's like, what do you need right now? Like, what are you looking for? Why are you here? And I said, I need money because like I don't know, I'm starting a hedge fund and I don't know what I'm doing, you know, but I need money. I know I want to do this. That's all I know is I just really want to work on this. But in order to run a hedge fund, we need more money to hire and, you know, hire a team to launch our hedge fund. And so the guy, he grabs a checkbook from his pocket and he says, from his bag, and he says, well, how much money do you need? And I'm like, wait, you're gonna write me a check, right? Like, and he says, no, it's fine. And then he introduces himself and he says, I'm Gary Bergstrom. You know, I started my hedge fund in 1970 from my dorm room in college when I was your age. And now by the way, now his company is called Acadian Asset Management. They're $100 billion. They're $100 billion multi-asset manager companies, one of the biggest companies in Boston. And so he wrote me a check and he handed it to me. And I'm crying. I can't believe this because, you know, it's like a roller coaster, right? Like earlier today, I just lost a pitch competition and I was crying sad tears. And now he's writing me a check. I'm crying happy tears. And I feel like I just won the grand prize, like the jackpot, because he wrote me a check of $100,000. And then, you know, for me, I can't believe like, wow, I've never seen so much money in my life before. And, you know, so much money. So next day I called the bank and I said, can you hold $100,000? And the bank laughed at me. And I was like, of course. Right. And so then I deposited the check and couldn't believe it. And so that was the first check we ever got was, you know, just a very small check, but the rest was history. You know, after that, just really, really grateful, you know, to be able to raise more funding. And because such a big, you know, very famous company invested in us, because Gary runs a very big company, it increased our reputation by a lot. So that really helped. So let me talk a little bit. Let me think of what else to talk about. I guess really quickly as well, maybe a couple lessons we learned from the startup world. So I don't know if anyone that has heard of, there's a famous book called Principles by Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is like a billionaire. He runs a company called Bridgewater. Bridgewater is the biggest hedge fund in the world. So they're also like over $100 billion, very, very big company. And so when we started our hedge fund, me and I have two co-founders, and all three of us said, let's write our own principles, you know, based on like millennial, you know, for us, like younger generation, like what we want as a company. We didn't like Ray Dalio's principles, but so we wanted our own better, you know, principles. And so some of our principles, for example, were we wanted a flat managerial structure. So everyone's title at my first company, everyone's title is called partner. And a good reason for that was because we were hiring people 2 times, 3 times my age, and I want them to feel equal, to feel welcome on the team. And so we called them partner in the company. And then another principle we had was I wanted to hire bigger name service providers, like household for accountants, right? Let's hire PwC or Deloitte or some big, you know, name that everybody knows, KPMG, like a big company, or for tax as well, just hiring big name companies because we don't have a reputation, because I know we look like kids. We don't look like a billionaire investor. I don't look like Ray Dalio. And then we had other examples too, but I'll just use those 2 examples for now. Over the last 10 years of running my company, almost all of the principles we wrote at the beginning, they turned out completely wrong in the end. Everything was wrong, and some of them almost killed my company. So for example, I mentioned everyone has the same title in my company. Very bad idea and very big mistake. And the reason why is because there's a difference between fairness and equality. We were equality, right? Everyone had the same equal title, but that's not fair to many people in the company. So for example, we hired an office manager. The office manager's job is to clean the table, clean the kitchen, schedule my meetings, right? Like it's just office work. You know, we can pay them like, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000 a year. This is 10 years ago. Now we can't do that anymore. But back then, you know, we pay them like $50,000. One day, she brings me to her, into my office. She's like, you know, calls me in for a meeting, and she says, I'm a partner in this company, right? And I said, yeah, you're a partner. And she said, well, I want a partner level salary because all the other partners make more money than me. And I was like, oh, you're right, and then I had to explain, well, that's technically true, like you are a partner, but also your job is, there's economy, right? Like, her job is easier to get. Anyone, even, anyone can get this job, right? It's like an easy office manager job. It doesn't require training or PhD or anything. But some of the other positions we have, like research roles that, require like a master's or PhD or computer science, that kind of really difficult roles we have that, of course, we pay them more. Or people who are older, with 20 years of experience, of course, we pay them more because they're more in demand. So that's when I realized we are not being fair, we are just being equal, and there's a huge difference. So that really hurt us in the end because people were leaving our company because we weren't treating them fairly. We were just treating them all the same. So that's one big lesson. The other lesson I mentioned, hiring the big name companies to work for you, like a big name lawyer or big name accountant or tax or any other company, right, to work with you. At first, I thought it makes sense. Like, I don't have a reputation. Let me hire a famous lawyer that has reputation. The problem is they will treat you like their smallest customer. So we had an administrator who was late to deliver what their job is to deliver financial statements every month. And we have a regulatory deadline every year for the, financial statements. And it was already April and they passed the deadline. And I'm like, what happened? I've been calling them and I can never reach them. And finally they emailed me and they said, sorry, we have bigger customers to deal with. And as a startup, that's the last thing you want to hear, right? As a founder, for anyone, you never want to hear, sorry, we have bigger customer over here to deal with. And so that brought us in a lot of trouble, by the way, because we missed the deadline, regulatory deadline. So we got audited, we got in just kind of a lot of messy work because we missed that deadline. And it was like, so I realized at the end of the day, like we should hire people who treat you like you're a king, who treat you very well, right? So yeah, so those are some of the lessons learned. Anyway, I guess I'll talk more about like some of the other bigger lessons for me as an entrepreneur would be the number one thing for any career, anyone, is rejection, like normalizing rejection, handling rejection. Okay, because how do I describe this? I get rejected every single day in my job, in my life. I get rejected by investors. I still get rejected by, lawyers, accountants, like many companies don't want to work with me. And rejection is normal. It's a part of, even job candidates. Many people apply to my company and they reject us. We give them an offer. We gave someone an offer recently, like a VP, level, really high level role, very high salary, and they rejected. They said no. So of course, like, we get rejected every day. And so just very important lesson for me is like, that's normal. It happens to everyone. And if you're not being rejected enough, then maybe it's like, you're not trying hard. You should, as an entrepreneur, especially, it's good to put yourself out there and put yourself in positions where you get a no. And there's nothing bad about no, by the way. Like, no is a good thing. It means you can move on and go to the next opportunity, right? And keep going. In college, I remember when I applied to jobs for the first time and I got rejected. I got a lot of rejections. And my first rejection, I always remember, because the first rejection I received hurt the most. It was the most painful because I was like, wow, this company doesn't want me to work from them. And so it was a very painful time, I remember. But now I get rejected every day. So it's like, oh, I call it a mountain of rejections. You just pile on a mountain of, put this new rejection on the mountain of rejections, move on and just keep going, right? When I'm fundraising, when I'm raising money for my company, I get rejected by 100 venture capital, 100 investors reject me. And then one says yes, and that's good. That's a good thing. So yeah, that's one lesson that is really important. The other lesson that was for me very important is also you do not need to be an entrepreneur. You do not need to be a CEO in order to be happy, in order to succeed, in order to make money. Many young people today feel pressure to become an entrepreneur or become a CEO, that you must start a company or you must become a billionaire. And I think that's a very actually like that, you know, it sounds fun because I think in the news you hear, like, even from, you know, people see me in the news and I'm winning so many awards and they're like very, you know, like, wow, that's so cool. And actually behind the scenes, I'm telling you, right, like we face so many rejections every day. I face very difficult challenges and problems. You know, people, you know, I have had to fire people. I remember having to deal with all kinds of problems in my company, and that's, you know, the kind of dark side of running a company that people don't hear about. And so for me, it's like, it's totally respectful and respectable to have a job that, you know, like a 9-to-5, work at a large company, or be a full-time parent, or don't have a job, you know, maybe take some time off or travel, or be full-time mom, full-time dad. You know, there's nothing wrong with any career path. And I think all of them are really great, of course, so long as you are happy. And that's something that was for me hard to learn, because there's a famous quote, like, it's live the life that you want to live, not the life that others expect of you, right? And the life others expect of you, you know, is usually like, oh, you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, especially for, you know, your kids, right? You want your kids to make a lot of money, have a stable job. But the problem is many kids, they want to be an artist, they want to be a musician, or they want to be a teacher or something completely, or start a company, right? And so I think for me also just really important to for me to remember is like, just continue to live, you know, the life that I really want to live. And then it's okay. Like I face so many failures and everything, but at the end of the day, like I feel happy for my job personally, but it's not for everyone. So I know if my friend, you know, did my job, they would hate it because they have to do so much, you know, like well, I mentioned, like, you know, people rejecting me, me rejecting them, a lot of no's every day, stuff like that. You know, you have to deal with very difficult situations. We had to fire people. We've had to, you know, deal with for high frequency trading, because I worked in a controversial industry for my previous company. Also have to deal with the media, the spotlight, the attention, a lot of mostly negative attention, you know, people saying, oh, you are, you know, manipulating the market. So we have to answer questions and deal with, you know, lots of, I guess, just media and lawyers and people hating, you know, hating us online and stuff. So it's definitely a lot, but for me overall, like, you know, learning to have a life and a job that I can be happy with is very important. So yeah, I guess, I don't know if there's anything else. I think those are the two main things. Is there's no such thing as a perfect job for everyone. You can be, you know, work at whatever company, small company, big company, your own company, or no company. Maybe you just have kids and that's okay, or no kids and you just travel or something. You know, I think that's all fine and okay. And so that's just really important to know. And I know I'm saying this, I'm like, oh, I'm a CEO, you know, like, but you got to trust me on this. Like my best friends are, you know, one of my close friends works at Costco. One of my best friends works at, you know, these local companies here, and they're all really good jobs. And so there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I guess maybe I'll pause. I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
好的，那个 Christina 刚才非常生动啊，讲了很多，特别好。现在他希望大家能够问一些问题，我想可能现在的听众啊都有很多的问题啊，我们可以等他们啊，大家可以非常自由的来提出来，都是一家人嘛哈。
Awesome. So I see in the comments, there's a few questions. So Laurie, you said, what do you want to tell a 9-year-old girl? For me, I would just say, have fun, enjoy your life. You know, you're 9, like enjoy your life. Don't worry about SATs and ACTs and, you know, like college is too early, you know. For me, that's my biggest thing is I wish I spent childhood being, you know, like being more of a child, right? Like go skiing on the weekends and, you know, just enjoy my life. Of course, like, you know, still study and do my homework and stuff, but still like enjoy and spend time, like just discovering, exploring new things. And I'm glad I did some of that. So like, for example, by the way, when I went to MIT, one of my best friends at MIT, he didn't know how to swim. He didn't know how to ride a bike. He had never ride a bike before, right? And he never went skiing. Every time we did something together, it was his first time. Never went ice skating. You know, it was always his first time doing something because he grew up in a strict household and his parents never taught him anything. And so then when he went to college, he finally said, I'm finally living my life, learning to ski, learning to ride a bike, learning to swim. He never learned basic skills because, you know, like, and so I realized, wow, you know, I'm grateful I grew up in Utah because, you know, we have so many things available to us. And usually it's a lot cheaper or easy access to like the mountains for skiing, you know, and back then the season pass was pretty cheap. So it was very easy for us as kids to go skiing and to go swimming and have fun. And so that's my number one advice for kids, just have fun, you know, and don't worry about, I know like, yes, they do competitions, right? I did piano competitions growing up, and like, don't worry about getting first place or second place or like that. To me it's okay. But like, you know, for me, what's more important is, did I enjoy it? Did I have fun? Do I love what I'm learning? Do I love the music I'm performing? Right. And I try my best to give my piano teacher feedback. I say, I don't like this song. Can you give me another song, please? Because I want to spend time practicing something I love and I really want to enjoy. And so tell your kids, like, it's okay to ask your teacher, hey, I don't like this. Give me something else. So that's my biggest advice, is just don't worry about like, yeah, there's always competition. Every weekend there's some competition, and that's okay. But like, make sure you make friends, you know, don't make any enemies, right? Like, make your friends and be friends with everyone. And I think life is so important that just to have more, the more friends you have, that's much more important than how many trophies you have. So friends more than trophies, right? More important. Okay, so JP Hillary, you said, where is your company located now? We are remote, 100% remote company. We have employees everywhere. So I live in Utah. We have, but we technically have our mailing addresses in Boston still, but we have employees in China, Australia, Switzerland, different countries. So yeah, it's been really fun. My current company, Data Bento, is about 20 people now. So it's pretty small still, but we have about 30 million in funding. So relatively large amount of funding for a small company in Utah. Let's see, Jacqueline, you said how to start a hedge fund. So it takes an entire semester class to explain how to start a hedge fund because it's a very academic topic. If you want to learn how to start a hedge fund, Google the number one thing. That's what I did. I just Google how to start a hedge fund. Actually, you'll see my video. If you Google you might see my video somewhere on a Google on how to start a hedge fund. I did a YouTube video about this too. So yeah, feel free to look it up. You don't need to code. So you just need to have many different skills and also a lot of time and a lot of money. Let's see. If you could, Lexi, you said, if you could go back in time, is there anything you would like to do differently? Yeah, I think, Lexi, the number one thing is just enjoy life, enjoy the journey, the process, you know, enjoy like everything, and just understand that like things are going to be okay. You know, I got rejected from so many pitch competitions and I lost so many opportunities like that, but it's okay, you know, because what's more important is I signed up for those events. I showed up, I did it. And a lot of these events are free, right? These are opportunities. So I wish I did stuff like this, like attend, you know, like our local events like this, right? And talk to the community and get to know people better in your community. I think that is so important. And I didn't do a lot of that growing up. So I wish I definitely did that more. And also, another thing differently, learn Chinese, go to Chinese school, learn better Chinese, be a better student, and really get good, you know, teach your kids Chinese as much as you can and tell them it's something you should be proud of, because now when they're my age, I'm so like, I wish I learned better Chinese and paid attention in school in Chinese. So Kyle, what are the top clubs you would recommend for high school? The top club I recommend for a high school is the club that you enjoy the most. And that could be, for me, that's anime club. It's music club. It's any club that you personally really enjoy. So that's my answer. There's no perfect club for everyone. Do the club that you love the most. Let's see. Do you think, Jacqueline, you asked me privately, do you think that there is a difference between going to MIT and going to something like the University of Utah? I know the best answer for this because I went to MIT. My brother goes to the University of Utah. So yes, there are small differences here and there. I would say the biggest difference is definitely like at MIT, the classes are a lot harder. Remember I told you like my first exam at MIT, I got a 21%. It was very difficult for me. Whereas like, you know, my friend, I have another good friend who, actually my friend, she went to Cornell and then she transferred to University of Utah for a few years. And she said, oh, the U of U is a lot easier. So, so I have some evidence of that, but, you know, so yeah, it is easier, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. It just means that you have to work, you have to be like in the top 10% at the U, you know, to get like a similar job as like the top maybe 50% at MIT, right? And that's just because of the population at the U, you know, it's a lot bigger school. So it's a different kind of school spirit than MIT, you know, wherever MIT, it's like today, if I see someone who went to MIT, we just give each other a hug because I'm like, we went through the same, you know, torture together. It was just as difficult for me as it was for them. So there's a few differences, but to be honest, like go to the school that you want to go to. Like, you know, you can go to the U of U and you can still get a job at your favorite company. You can still get, you know, start your own company. The U of U has, like, my brother lives in Lausanne right now, which is like the entrepreneurship dorm, right? And I went to, he gave me a tour of his dorm and I'm like, wow, you guys have so many resources for entrepreneurs and it's super cool. And most students don't even care, you know, they're just too busy like having fun and stuff, which is good. I don't mind, but I was like, wow, if only, you know, if I went to the U, I would definitely take advantage of all the free resources in at the school, you know, go to all the startup events because there are so many great events at the U. So I absolutely love it. So definitely for college, like I know it's stressful, but of course apply to all the colleges. It's all a gamble, it's a risk, you know, but then the worst case you get is a no, right? And that's okay. And then just choose whatever school is best for you and then go from there. Let's see, Andrew, can you talk more details about your trading strategy? I don't have enough time for this either, but we did high frequency trading. So we did basically statistical arbitrage and we did market making, and you can Google those, and happy to, you know, if you connect with me on like LinkedIn or Twitter or somewhere, like I'm happy to tell you more. But basically we did quantitative strategies based on like mathematical algorithms and stuff like that, because we did that because we knew that as younger people, you know, we were more computer oriented, computer savvy, so we can program, you know, strategies like that and have an edge over other companies. So that's why we did that. Julie, you said, do you have any suggestions for teenage kids that don't know what to do in the future? My suggestion, because I was one of them, I was a teenage kid. I was in my 20s. I still didn't know when I was 20, you know, in college, I didn't know what I want to do in the future. So, you know, my biggest advice is just explore and try new things and see what you enjoy. You know, some people like take an art class, or some people might take maybe a computer science course, learn how to code, and maybe at least the best thing you learn is, do you like it or do you not, right? And some people learn, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a coder or a software engineer, and that's okay. So just try new things, take different classes and explore, and find what's best for you. You can be an artist and make a lot of money. It's okay. You can be a, you know, musician or anything. And so a lot of it's I know it's a generational difference, but like, I know my mom, for example, like my parents' generation, they say like, oh, you want to get a job at like Goldman Sachs or, you know, like Google, right? And have a stable career and work there for 40 years and just grow in that pipeline. But I'm like, I don't want to do that. So, you know, just listen to, have them figure out like, what do they truly want to do, and just support them. That's, as a parent, it's just your job to support them as they make mistakes, as they discover themselves, I don't like this, you know, and keep going. So let's see, Johnny, you said, could you provide some advice on how to balance life and study as a freshman in college? Wow. That was hard for me, to be honest. I was not very good at work and life and balancing that, but maybe one thing that helps is like set boundaries for yourself if you can. So what I mean by that is know what you, let's say like my boundary for me right now is I never work on weekends. No matter how busy I get, no matter how stressful life is, I try my best to never work on the weekends. I always only work on the weekdays. And that way it just allows me to have time for myself and for my friends, and then, you know, be able to balance that work and life. So set your own boundaries and try your hardest to, you know, stick to them if you can. Yeah. And then also, you know, one thing I realized, by the way, is GPA, your grades are, it's like, nobody ever asked for my GPA. That's because I started a company. If you want to go to, become a doctor, go to medical school, then yes, GPA matters. If you want to apply to PhD, yes, GPA matters. But because I became, an entrepreneur and I just, after college, just decided to, start a company, then nobody asked for my GPA. And I'm like, maybe instead of studying so hard and wasting my weekend studying, like I could have just, met more friends, made some more friends, and those friends could help me in my company, right? Like the human connection is very, very important. And I never learned or understood that. So yeah, let's see. Let me ask one more question and then let's go from here. So you said, Zhang, you said, Christina, if there is only one thing you can pick from what your parents have done for you, what would that be? The number one thing my parents have done for me is love me unconditionally. And they encourage me to be a good person, no matter what, no matter where I go, no matter what I do in life. And I think that's so important. Really funny story was sometimes I'll share with my parents, oh, today I was on TV doing an interview, or, oh, I show them one time we got an investor invested, my company now $100 million company. And they invested like $20 million. And now my company's $100 million in value. And I remember my dad was like, okay, great, but can you cook me dinner? What's for dinner, right? And I realized that's what matters, right? Is that we can live a healthy life together. And that the best thing for a best relationship you have with your kids is that after college, your kids want to visit you, they want to come back, they don't mind living with you or spending time with you as a parent because you were supportive of them the entire time. And that's why I like living with my parents a lot. I choose to live with my parents instead of I have enough money to buy a lot of houses but I don't actually. I'm just I just donate the money and then live with my parents because I think I enjoy that very much. And I think that's the number one thing is just having parents who can be supportive. And of course, they put pressure, of course, every parent puts pressure on your kid, right? Expectations and stuff like that. But it's at the end of the day, no matter what I chose, just being supportive. And that's for everyone, by the way, even, many of you guys, everyone here, supporting me when I mention what I'm doing. And of course, many people don't understand, what am I doing? But there's still wow, that's so cool. Or I want to learn more, and I'm so happy that's a positive attitude, I really, really love and appreciate that. So love this, community here in Utah a lot. Okay, so Xuemei, you raised your hand. I don't know if you're still there, but if you have,
yeah, I'm still there. Oh, thank you. Really, thank you for this speech. Currently, an 8th grader at West. He's also very interested in entrepreneurship, and a lot of this has been. Well, thanks for just pointing out the potential road bumps in the way that I might have just fell into. So I was wondering how I could use my Chinese American heritage to potentially expand my customer base. And do you have some tips and tricks for that? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing is just being authentic and telling your story, and that's okay. Just being completely true to who you are and authentic. For example, for my company, when I started it, I always make sure people know that, I am not Ray Dalio. I am not Warren Buffett, right? But yet, my my story is different and it's unique. And I convince investor, you like this. This is a good thing that I'm different, that I come from Utah and, don't come from Wall Street in a traditional money family, right? Those things are all good and good things you can leverage to tell your story. And so don't be afraid of your heritage and your background, and, make sure to always, whenever appropriate, mention that and say where you're from and why you started if you have a company or, whatever you're looking to do, an idea, right? Make sure to tell that story, because that's what makes people interested in you. It's not the product itself. No one cares. Everyone has a product. Everyone, it's everyone has a hedge fund, for example, in my industry. It's not unique. What's unique is the person behind the company. That's what's unique. So yeah, thanks. So good luck at West. It's a great school and you're going to do great. So try not to stress. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, I see your other question in the comments. So
That was my mom's.
No worries. You said, since you're on the board of MIT, I wanted to ask you what top colleges are doing with the disastrous college application process. It's insanity. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. And it's not about learning anymore. And it is sad. So, unfortunately in life, there are many things that are out of your control. And that college application is probably the number one thing for young people. It's out of your control, right? You don't know who is looking at your application or how unlucky, maybe there's a lot of people from Utah applying this year. So, competition's worse this year, and the next year no one applies from Utah, and the next year is more lucky, right? So what I realized in life is like, don't worry about the things that are out of your control. You will never, like winning a lottery. It's like winning a lottery. You enter a lottery number, but like, you never know, right? It's like gambling. And so those types of things that are out of your control, those things you don't want to worry and go to bed and worry about like that, right? Worry about the things that you can control. And the things that you can control are, maybe small, like there's all kinds of stuff actually. So examples would be what are you interested in doing, right? And sometimes you discover you're interested in doing something that, and maybe studying a topic, and like Harvard doesn't even have that major, maybe you want to study business, and actually Harvard doesn't have a business undergraduate major. So like, why would you go to Harvard, right? If you do that. And so then you start realizing there are other opportunities at other schools, or, trade schools and other types of universities. You can art school, that might have a major that you really want to study. So it's more like throughout life, like learning more about yourself and what do you want to do, and living your life, not the life others expect of you. Again, like I know the West is very competitive, right? There's so many Chinese kids and everyone's taking the SAT and like getting good grades and stuff. So, and it's not a competition. Like life is really not a competition. I talked to one of my friends. She went to West, and I remember talking to her, and she said, my biggest regret was I became enemies with all of my Chinese classmates, and my mom became enemies with all the Chinese, their moms, right? All their parents are enemies because they're like, think of it as competition. And she says, actually, it's not a competition. How you win in life is how many friends you make. It's about how, if you want to start a company one day, or you work for another company, like it's about having people to hang out with when you visit Utah, having good friends and spending time together, and getting support, right? And so she realized, like, I spent so much time being enemies and trying to be number one that we lost track of what the purpose of life is, which is to be friends and to enjoy and just forgive each other. We all make mistakes, and yes, we all have to compete in debate competition or chess competition, or I don't know, all kinds of competitions, but at the end of the day, like still be a good sportsman and be good friends, and understand that like it's just a competition. After competition, we can still be good friends. So like that is so important. Just think about the bigger picture of life, and like life is much bigger than just your high school. So yeah, let's see. The most of your parents. Oops, sorry, John. I don't know if I answered your question about what you appreciate the most of your. Oh, okay. What I appreciate the most of my parents. I guess like I love that they cook. I like their food that they make, and I like that they like communicate with me a lot about stuff. So and that they're just good parents, good people. So really appreciate that, and they understand my career. So okay. So Albert, you mentioned how you experienced a lot of failure in the beginning with the internships and startup events. Did you go through any ruts in your life where you felt stuck and doubtful of your career choice? Oh, all the time, always feel doubt about my career choice. Like I became a CEO at age 21. I was 21. And of course, I didn't know what I was doing. And of course, I felt very lost and confused all the time. One example is when I was, so I mentioned like, we were asking different lawyers to work with us. And I remember there's one time when a lawyer emailed me back, and he said, "You're just a kid. Like, what are you doing?" And he said, "Of course we don't want to work with you." And I felt so offended because we had the money to pay for them, to pay for a lawyer, but the lawyer rejected us, even though we're the customer. And so of course I felt very like, is he being racist? Is he being, sexist? What kind of behavior, right? And so I was very, very sad. And I just remember there's times like that when when other people think of me as I'm not, worth their time, of course I start to doubt myself. But there's also other moments where you feel like everything is worth it. And everyone has that in life, where you realize everything you did, all the hard work you did, is finally worth it. So one experience was, during my internship, I told you I didn't get a return offer, right, from the company. They didn't want me to work for them. So then I started my company, and then about 7 years later, we grow the company, and we're running the hedge fund, and we get a cold phone call from someone. And it was back then, it was actually, I have an assistant now in the company who she takes all the phone calls, and she wrote down the name, and she said, this company wants to invest in us. And so I looked at the name, I'm like, wait, that sounds familiar. And I Googled the name, and that's my old, that's the guy from my company, my boss's boss. Actually, boss's boss, actually, in my old company, the one that rejected me, wants to invest in my new company. Isn't that crazy? Like, I cannot believe it. Like, the internship company I interned on, they want to invest in my hedge fund. And that was a moment when I realized, wow, I do belong here. I've earned this spot. And now it's my turn to tell them no. It's my turn to reject them and say, I don't want them as an investor, because I know what it's like to work with them. It was not a healthy relationship working with them. So I decided, no, I don't want their money. So I've had funny moments like that too, where it's called tables turn, where you feel like, wow, I do belong in this industry. And then some moments where I feel like, oh, I don't. Another story of I don't belong is I was in New York at the big the Schwartzman Library. It's like I forgot where, like Midtown New York. There's a big library called the Schwartzman Library, and they have a hedge fund event every year there. It's a very big hedge fund event, like lots of thousands of people, and it's actually a dinner table seating. So it's like everyone's having dinner, and then there's a stage at the top. And so I was walking to the stage to give a keynote speech on stage. And back then, this is like many years ago, I used to wear like black, try to look older, right? Try to like dress, my mom's always like, try to look older, you look like kid. So I try to dress a little bit older. So I was wearing black. And I was walking to the stage, and a guy goes, excuse me, ma'am, we're done with our table. Can you take our plates? And I turn around, and he's looking, he has a dinner table, everyone's done with their dinner, and he's pointing to his dinner, and he thought I was a waitress. And so I was like, oh, and so I froze, I didn't know what to say. And I told him, okay, I'll take your plates as soon as I finish my keynote speech up on stage, okay? I'll be right back. And then of course, like, afterwards he came up to me and he said, I'm so sorry. That was such an embarrassing mistake. I really didn't know you were, you were a speaker. I'm so sorry. Like, that's so embarrassing. He said, I'll buy you dinner. And I said, don't buy me dinner. Like, just next time have a woman, a woman of color, right, speak on stage. Next, hire more women on your team, right? Give more women opportunities in this industry, because he had just never seen a woman on the stage before. So he thought I was a waitress because he never saw like a Chinese woman speaking before. So, and then, then I realized I could have used that opportunity. Like, I could have been mad at him. I could have yelled at him and been angry, but instead I used humor, and it's like, oh, I'll still take your plates. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that. My parents were waiters when I was very young, 4 or 5, my parents were waiting tables too. So I like that job. It's respectable. And I think it's a good job. So I will take the plates because I think that's fine. But anyway, so, I just use humor and like, just think of it as an opportunity to educate them. And we became friends. Many years later, he still keeps in touch with me. We're still good friends. And so, like, again, an opportunity where you turn an enemy as someone who, said something bad, and just realize, like, we're all human. We just try to learn and like teach him something. And now he became a friend. So, and now I feel like I belong because he invites me to opportunities and gives me more chances to speak and everything. So yeah. Let's see, we have about maybe 13 more minutes. So I'll answer the last couple of questions here. So Zhang, you said, Christina, if there is only one thing you can pick from what your parents have done for you, what would that be? Oh, what would you appreciate the most? Yeah. just everything, everything, right? Like the amount of money they paid for me to do so many activities after school. My mom dropped me off when I was like 12 years old. She brought me to Anime Utah. What is it called? Anime Bonsai, like the local anime convention. There's like cartoons for kids, right? And I literally wore a costume, and my mom took a photo of me. And I think they really love that what I do, and they don't understand it, but like they love that and they appreciate that. And so I have a lot of memories like that I appreciate because they let me be myself. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, Kyle, you said, do you know of the IB program and would you recommend it? Good point. I personally, like, it's hard to say, right? I did the IB program. Do I recommend it? Yes and no. It was painful for me to do the IB program, but back then, because IB was so new, they made us take the AP test and the IB test. So it's like you get two chances. If we took like IB chemistry, and then I would take AP and IB, the same two tests at the end of the year. So I got like two chances. And sometimes what happens is I fail the IB test and I pass the AP test. So then it's like you get twice the chance, which is good. But the program is very stressful and it's a lot of time. Personally, like, if I ever have kids, I probably would not have them do IB, actually. I would probably just be like, no, don't do IB, just because it's so much extra time and work and energy, and the stress isn't worth it. I'm like, you know what, you can take less exams, less test scores, and still like do okay. And I'm okay with that. So yeah. Let's see, Jacqueline, you said, I'm a freshman at Hillcrest, and how helpful. Oh, you asked IB as well. Oh, okay. So maybe I'll tell more about IB. Hillcrest, I did Hillcrest IB. You can see my picture in the IB room. One of the first like years of IB is like 2009. I'm old, but I don't know, man. Like, try it maybe if you want to. It's okay to drop it. I have many friends who dropped IB and they're still very successful, guys. Like many friends who didn't do IB and still ended up in a good place, making a lot of money, having a life, working like very good hours and then taking weekends off. Actually, one of my IB dropout friends is here right now at my house upstairs playing video games with my friends. So like that's okay. I literally I could hear them playing upstairs right now, and some of them did not pass IB, and that's okay. So yeah, let's say that's how I feel. It's very I'm very mixed on it personally. Okay, Henry, you said, how did you improve your personal skills, especially for mid and high school students? Wow. Some people are, it's hard for me. I was very shy in middle and high school. Personal, like just interpersonal skills and being social and talking and stuff. But for me, what helped was like finding groups of friends who just appreciate me and with similar hobbies. So for me, I was a big nerd. I liked anime, video games, and all of my friends do too. So I found a group of friends. We all like video games. And whenever I talk about video games, it's natural. Like we can talk for hours and hours about topics that we love, right? And so for everyone too, if you find someone who shares the same hobbies, if you like skiing or exercise, or if you like video games like me, finding something that is something you have in common. You don't need to it's not about being popular. It's not about being loved by everyone, because again, like I am not for everyone. You are not for everyone either, right? Like not everyone is going to be best friends or like you, and that's okay. It's a natural part of, life. And so, but stick close to the people who appreciate you, and learn to have healthy friendships and develop healthy relationships. It's so important. So yeah. And Alicia, thank you for your comment as well. I appreciate it. Let's see, you said, Hope, I don't know how to raise hand here. Just want to say a little. Oh, my mom wants to talk. Okay. Okay, Mom, do you want to say something?
Yeah, someone taught me how to do it. So I just want to say one thing. When she was a little young, and she has a lot of different competitions, some win, some loss, sometimes it's just for fun, and sometimes like piano, and she's more serious. A lot of times she lost. Okay, of course she wins a lot of times, but when she lost, sometimes a lot of times, like she cry or she not happy. Yeah, we are not happy. We were not happy either. But at any situation, no matter how, we always ask her to go congratulations to the first place, to whoever win. So she learned this from her young age. No matter you win or you lost, she always congratulations to others. I think that's probably another good part for parents to, educate kids.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. That's probably how I raised funding for my startup. Was I said thank you when I lost the pitch competition. I said thank you to the organizer. Again, just appreciating, whenever there's an opportunity, right? Like see the bigger picture, appreciate the opportunity, even when you lose. And then the organizer introduced me to the investor, and that's how I raised funding for my company, was by saying thank you to the organizer. So yeah, again, like just this Utah community is so special. Again, like, don't be jealous. And I don't recommend, don't be jealous of me. I'm not a billionaire. Okay. My company trades $1 billion. That doesn't mean I'm a billionaire. Am I happy? Yeah, of course. But like, my happiness is just a reflection of all of you. And it's a reflection of, just the community that raised me, right? That built me to be the person who I am today. And I think for all of you as well, like, just being a part of this Utah community is so special. And so don't forget that as you go off to college or you move to different locations, like just always remember like that here in Utah, there's so many awesome people and a good network of people to support you while you're here. And that's so important. So, Cast Utah, by the way, they gave me a scholarship many, many years ago, like 12 years ago, they gave me a scholarship. And that scholarship helped me pay for college. And that was very awesome. So again, like just these opportunities and stuff that this community is giving me. And where's that scholarship money come from? I understand it comes from all of you. It's donations from all of you guys and from corporate sponsors and, like that. And that's something, again, like you've got to teach your kids, right? And that's what I learned was like, wait a second, this is my support from all of you. You helped me pay for school when it was too expensive for me, when I couldn't afford it, and helped me realize like my goals, my dreams. And I'm only here today, because of all of you. So again, like, thank you for, all of your time and your interest. And, you asked so many wonderful questions, and you made so many good points as well. And I know like many people wonder about high school or IB, starting a company, stuff like that. And I'm always around if people have any questions or want to chat. And I'll try my best, of course, in the future when Cast Utah does events, I'll try my best to attend and support. Right, I think that's just very important to continue to be a good citizen and a good part of the community. So thank you again, everyone. I'm sure, by the way, I'm friends with many of your kids. And again, same thing, right? We are all of your kids, we're all so successful. All your kids are doing amazing. And again, like we're all just so proud of each other. But, again, we would not all be here without each other's support. So thank you. Really, really grateful for, for everyone around. I guess, any final questions or anything, or or I can hand it back to organizers.
好的，各位，如果还有问题的话呢，你们也可以举手啊，通过语音来问也可以。
Awesome. And thank you so much. I'm reading all of your comments too. And yeah, thanks everyone for all of your time. I guess, someone said, what are your long-term goals? Oh, wow. That's a good question. So, long-term goals for me now, I feel like I've done a little bit of everything. Like I give back to charity, like I volunteer a lot of time. I'm on the board of MIT, like literally I help MIT like with a lot of stuff. And so it's like I feel like I've done a lot. I teach at Harvard Business School. I teach at MIT every year. I do a lot of random stuff. And I do the things I like, I get to say no, turn down opportunities and stuff. So for me personally, in terms of long-term goals now, my long-term goal is just like be happy, try to be healthy, focus on like my friends and continue to make good friends, and also make sure that my family, everyone is healthy, make sure my friends are healthy and doing well. So that's my long-term goal now, is just generally happiness and health. you know, for me now, because now I'm older, by the way, right? I'm almost 31. I'm pretty old. So I know like everything's going to be okay. I already have a good job. I made enough money already in my 20s. And so a lot of those goals that many people worry, like for me 10 years ago, my goal was make money. But now I've made enough money and I'm like, oh, now I just want to like focus on the other parts of my life and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you all so much again. This was a really amazing opportunity. And I look forward to supporting Cast Utah, of course, in, you know, future events and opportunities. And for those of you who signed up for the book, by the way, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase a copy of that book for everyone. So if you entered in, it's like a Google form, if you enter your name and your address, I will send you a copy of the book. It's not my book. So this is a book that was written by a friend of mine, and this friend runs a nonprofit called Asian Hustle Network. It's a nonprofit community. It's also a Facebook group if you want to join. It's on Facebook called Asian Hustle Network. And so they wrote this book, and it features lots of different stories of different entrepreneurs and, you know, people coming from different countries in Asia who made a difference in America. And so I highly recommend. My story is the most boring story. The other stories are a lot more interesting. But yeah, so if you sign up for the book, I will make sure to get you a copy of that, and the author will deliver those books to your address. So yeah, I don't know where the link is. I think it's on WeChat. Yeah, so it says there's 15 people signed up. The book is called Uplifted. I think the link is on WeChat, or I don't know, Ai, if you have like the link somewhere, if you want to paste it in the comments here, or like another thing you can do is if you search Uplifted book, you can also just buy it, but if you want me to buy it for you, I can buy it. If you have to use the link to sign up. So yeah, that's all. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. Thanks for spending your Saturday with me today. Really, really appreciate your time.
好的，好的，谢谢 Christina 非常精彩的讲座啊。
好，谢谢大家。
真的一个真实的成长的故事啊，让我们看到了一个勤奋好学，而且能够经历挫败啊，经历很多人对他说 no 啊，而且他的心态特别好，能够不断的自我成长的这么一个创业者，而且从他的这个家庭啊，我们也看到了咱们华人家庭对教育的重视，对孩子的一个精心培养，所以在这里呢，也衷心希望我们更多的华人后代能够自我实现，能够成为自己内心最想成为的那个人哈。在这里呢，我也看到了咱们那个科协啊，很多的组织者，比如说这个副会长杨丹丹，文教部负责人之一安雪梅，还有科创部负责人之一战中华，秘书长董登攀，还有理事会顾问徐武，非常感谢徐武啊，也是 Christina 的干妈，这次呢引荐了 Christina， 能够让我们听到这么好的讲座。好，那么最后再次谢谢各位组织者，谢谢各位的参与，感谢 Christina， 谢谢你，各位好，那我们讲座今天到此结束，希望今后大家能够继续有机会能听到 Christina 精彩的故事，也祝愿你的事业越来越好。
好，谢谢大家，拜拜。
好的，我们的主持人还在吗？哎，好的，冯会长，
哎，浩波，
好的好的，今天都挺顺利的吧哈？
对，但是哎，我看那个明明，哎呀，好像我看看明明在吗？我给他打电话没接，啊，有些还没离开哈。要不我们到群里面去怎么样？还是就在这里吗？
可以了。
哦，但是到群，我看都是我们科协的了吗？现在？
好的，那因为我们讲座已经结束了，如果有些朋友呢，我们因为内部还开个会议啊，如果不是科协的，那就麻烦你们就先暂时离开一下，欢迎你们下次再参加哈。
有可能他们有些就不一定在线哈，或者有什么办法能强制的让他们退出吗？我也不懂。
没有，可以再开一个啊，你可以再开一个。
我干脆把，但是我现在没办法呀。
我开一个，我这儿有 Zoom， 我开一个过来就好了啊。好的，我发在哪里呢？发到我们执委会里面好不好？
可以。
好的，那这样，因为这个也是有录音的，那我们就到这里，那就麻烦咱们会议主持人把这个结束一下，我看看。
对，你那里行不行？因为那个敏敏，我刚才打他电话，他没接。
我这儿结束不了。
哦，那就只能等他这样。没关系，到时候我来剪辑嘛。
你那边可以结束吗？你点一下，上面有一个结束啊。那边有个结束啊。